What's up, guys? I wanted to talk a little bit about the online racing with NASCAR Heat 2 and a couple of other things. But um, right as of now, we don't have any information on NASCAR Heat, the next NASCAR game, which I'm assuming is going to be NASCAR Heat 3. But I would at least like to know if they started development or when they're going to start and what ideas they have, or at least just throw something out there so we know they're working on something. It is early, so I would think that within the next month to month and a half, maybe we'll hear something. Um, but other than that, there's nothing really to say about that. But I wanted to bring something up that I talked about a while back, and it had to do with online racing and stats and stuff like that. And it's not that I want to do like an I told you so, but I just want people to stop and think about what I talked about before, which I'm going to mention now, and the online multiplayer or online racing aspect of Heat 2. And if those of you who watched my videos before, you probably remember when I was talking about online and stats and how I really felt like you shouldn't reward people for running short sprints, and you just can't give wins out for anything, just for anybody to run a couple laps. And I got a little pushback, and a lot of you guys were like, "Oh no, you're going too far," because I was saying you should have to run a minimum of a 50% race or more to have stats count. You shouldn't get a win for running these quick little sprints. And I understand the backlash and why people were saying that, no, that's too much. You got to make it at least 25%. And I kind of backed off and I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with everybody. Most of you guys I know for a fact don't run really long races. Some of you do. I'm one of the few who does. So I get it. Most of you guys don't want to invest that kind of time into the game, which I don't really get, because when you sit and play these games, the same amount of time that it takes you to run most of these sprints, let's say you did 5 or 6 sprint races, you could run a decent 50% race or longer. But that's neither here nor there. That's just something that I'm, throwing out there. Whatever, you have the right to play the game any way you want. That's fine. I'm not going to get into back and forth about that. But what I really want you guys to think about is, if you go to the online multiplayer now, which I don't. Like, I tried it a few times, and I'll be honest with you, I've played less of that than I did with last year's game. And you know what mess that was. And it's not the developer's fault at all. I don't blame them. Like, there are things that they could do different, and my suggestion about only having stats count for longer races, that's definitely something that I feel strongly about. And in a way, I think my opinion on that has been validated. If you go online and you go look at the leaderboards, right? Yeah, I know the stats are not in depth. It's just something they threw up there. But still, if you look at the leaders, there are people with over 3,000 wins. Now think about that. Think about how ridiculous that number is. Now, a lot of you might say, who cares? It's stats. Who cares? It's not important. But you could say that about a lot of things in life. If you want to start comparing different things in life, yeah. Just talking about video games, it's not important. There are more important things in the world. But that's not the case at this point. We're talking about games. That's what I'm doing now. So in that box, it is important. because it has to do with something that we care about. We like these NASCAR games. We play them. We want them to be better. And the suggestion that I made, I think, is something that is important because I think I can't be the only person who sees that and this is what I said would happen. You'd have a bunch of guys with thousands of wins, and the, the game came out a few months ago. So it just it throws everything out of whack. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid, and it waters down the stats. And I don't have anything against the people playing the game as far as the stats go and stuff. But I personally, I don't. Those stats are meaningless, in my opinion. It's just a bunch. There are people who are getting 60, 70 wins a day. I think. I mean, I'm just throwing that number out there, but it just goes to show you these guys are running 3 to 5 laps. And when you look at all the races, they're all short sprints. You might see one race there that's 25%, if that. So I talked about the stats being watered down and becoming meaningless, and I also talked about incentivizing players to play longer races, which to me is closer to the real NASCAR experience. It's not just go out there, run 5 to 10 laps, and then it's a wreck fest on top of that. So it doesn't feel like NASCAR. It's just there's a juvenile feel about it, which is why I just can't spend any time online. It's a wreck fest. In many ways, it feels worse than it was last year. It's like people came back this year with a vengeance. I'm just going to be a bigger asshole this year. So it's hard to find serious races. On top of that, this is another thing that really bothers me about the way the online multiplayer is being used by people. Again, it feels weird because it does sound like I'm telling people how to play the game, and that's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying that another big thing that I wanted from this game, they actually gave it to us. I've been wanting the ability to add AI to the field, so you can have a full field and race online. So you can get a handful of online racers and then fill the field with AI, and that's something I've wanted. And now that we have it, very few people even use it. So you go to the lobbies and you'll see, if you're lucky, you'll see one guy trying to host a lobby with AI to fill the field. So it's like, this is one of the reasons I said that I don't blame the developer, that no matter what they do, online racing will always be a mess. I've said this before on videos in the past, so I'm only bringing this up so that you guys can see and realize and put together what I was saying and what's there, okay? And it's not an I told you so, but I told you so. I don't mean to do that, but this is what I wanted to say. The stats are meaningless. It's ridiculous. I mean, really? You see guys with 3,000 to 4,000 wins in the leaderboards, and it's ridiculous. So the stats are meaningless. The fact that you can't run a full season and have an organized league, that's something that I would like to see in the future, but I got to be honest. I have a very, very low expectation of future online racing on a console. The only place that I've seen that online racing works is iRacing, and I've said it before, it's a service. It's apples and oranges compared to consoles. People pay money to race online. It's very organized. You can't just do whatever the hell you want. You will get kicked off and you won't be able to run. Okay? It's very organized. But for someone like me, I've abstained from joining because of several reasons, but one is I have a very hectic work schedule, and I don't when you race on iRacing, they're scheduled races. You can't just, you could race whenever you want and just these random races and stuff like that. But if you want to race in a league or some kind of organized season type of racing, um, it's scheduled. So, you have to show up when the race is scheduled. It's not on your timetable. And I get it. I understand it. I'm not complaining about it, but that's not for me. It's not a good fit for me. It's not worth the money. Which is why, after looking into it and taking time to think about it, it's just not worth it. It would be a waste of money for me. So that's not an option. So it would be nice to race online in consoles, but it's just a fucking mess. And I honestly don't think it's ever going to work. I don't know. The only way it could possibly work is to incentivize people to race differently. There has to be a penalty of some kind if you race like an idiot. You got to give some control to hosts if they want to run an organized league where they can kick people and all kinds of stuff. And there's a point system. Everything is organized. You should be able to do this stuff in the game. And then you can set up weekly races or maybe twice a week where everyone can agree that they can make those times. And then you set it up online where this is when we're racing. And if you don't make it, you get a DNF, whatever the case is. But it's more organized. You shouldn't get stats. I'm telling you, personally, I think you should have to run a minimum 50%. But I'm not going to argue that. I know everybody's against that. So 25%, right? But at least incentivize people to take the game more serious and race longer races. And everything now is just a fucking mess. It's just a bunch of shopping carts crashing into each other. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody takes it seriously. The stats they're meaningless at this point. And I'm bringing this up so that you guys can understand why I said the things I said way back when. So it is kind of an I told you so, but I'm more interested in getting you guys to say, you know what? I get it now. And we need to go in a different direction. Otherwise, this is never going to get better. Now, how many of you, I'm interested to know, how many of you guys actually enjoy the online racing? I do see lobbies, people playing, but I just think it's a troll fest. I just think people they join in, they crash into each other, or once they fall to the back, they just back out of the race. That happens all the time too. So that's why I say these stats are meaningless. Once you're going to lose, you back out, whatever. And it's just, there's so much that needs to be done to improve the online. But I'm really not sure. I don't know if we're ever going to see online racing that really works. At least in the way that iRacing works. And I've said this before. I really don't think there's a way to guarantee that it does work. But there are things you could do to try to improve. And I've put those ideas out there. But I really think that they need to take a step back and reorganize the statistics to where it rewards people who invest time in longer races and race cleaner, right? And give people the ability to host organized seasons and leagues. So these are things that would help. Also, the stats this year, it was a nice gesture that they threw it in after the backlash. And I really do want to, once again, shout out to What If Racing and a couple of other guys that they also joined in and they kind of put the word out, right? And that's that's the reason I started doing videos way back when Utechnics was doing games. It's just I'm trying to help us get a better product. I'm trying to do something, right? And I don't have any real power except as a consumer. But I'm one person. So I'm always appreciative when bigger people with a bigger following take what I say, if they agree with it, and they help out or they join in. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I think we did prove that we are able to get some influence in the development of these games. We wouldn't have any fucking stats today if people didn't speak out. And I'm proud to say that I really did start that. I've been screaming about that for years. So we'd still be, in a place where there's no stats. If it wasn't for me starting that, and if it wasn't for these other guys like What If Racing, and I'm sorry, I apologize to a couple of you other guys who did also join in the conversation. At the moment, I do these videos on the fly, so, I off the top of my head, I don't remember everybody's name, so I do apologize, but there were several guys who did join in, and they spoke up, and we got something done. So it does work. We can make a difference, and that's the reason I continue to do videos, because if we don't stick together and we don't come to some kind of organized agreement, then we'll never get anything done. So that's my main reason for doing videos, and that's why I bring this up again, because if we're ever going to get the type of products we want, we have to be vocal, and we got to be united. We can't have people coming in and like, oh, who cares about stats, or who cares, about this or that. Listen, man, if you really don't care, then you don't even need to be a part of the conversation. What do you care? You buy the game when it comes out, and you either like it or you don't. But if you want to be a part of the solution, then you got to be more active, and you got to find a way to try to be more unified, because it's because 704 had the backlash, and they got a couple of people who did get together. And when I've asked some of you guys to forward messages on Facebook and Twitter, you did it. So I'm grateful for that, and it's proof. You can have an impact. So I'm bringing this up because this is how I feel about the online multiplayer, and I want you guys to kind of realize, really, this is what I was trying to tell you. The stats would be kind of meaningless if you allowed it to go the way it's going now. Now, because it's the first time they've implemented it, I'm not going to bash 704. They really did put a decent product forward. I still play the game every day. Offline career mode, which is why I've always said it's the most important part of the game, because at least I can enjoy the game offline, and I don't need to rely on people online who can and will ruin your experience. So I continue to emphasize that offline career mode is the most important thing. But if you ever really want to get the online multiplayer to what it could be or should be, then you got to incentivize people to race cleaner and run longer races. And some of the things they can do is like that. Like, if I know the only way I'm going to have stats, a compilation for online, is to run longer races, I'll do that. If you're still only interested in trolling people and wrecking people for 2 to 5 or 7 laps, then you could keep doing that. That's fine. But you're not going to get rewarded with ridiculous stats. So that's part of it. It's a small part, but it's a part of it. And it's something that's so easily addressable. Then you got the ability to organize leagues. Give people the ability to run the league and organize a season and have, there's so much you can do. And make the online multiplayer a more rewarding experience. And again, I also wanted to point out that, they gave us something that was huge. The ability to add AI to online races. I think that's one of the biggest, most innovative things we've seen in NASCAR video games. We've never seen that before. I almost got to the point where I'm like, I guess these guys just can't get it done. It's too hard. But they did it. Now, is it perfect? No. In many ways, the online AI is a little more aggressive than the offline, and they do race kind of wacky. At times, it feels like they're programmed to race like the trolls you race against online. So it's weird. I know they didn't do that on purpose, but these are things that need to be addressed. They can be fixed. They can be worked on. But those are my thoughts. While I do think there's a lot they can do to improve it, I'm not sure anymore if it'll ever be what it should be. And I don't know if it'll ever work, because at the end of the day, the biggest problem is people. And I've said this before. Those of you who've watched my videos in the past, you've heard me say this. The biggest problem with the online racing is people. It's not the developers. Okay? You know, they've given you enough that if you really gave a fuck and you wanted a race clean, you kind of could. It's not perfect and it needs a lot of work. But the biggest issue is people. So I don't enjoy online racing. I don't even do it at all. All my time is spent offline. And I feel good that at least the offline is playable. And when they fixed the caution system, it made a huge difference in the game. It still needs work, but it's really a solid game, and it's the best game we've had in a long time. So I expect them to continue to build, but at least I have that, and so it is what it is. So I want to know what you guys think about the online multiplayer. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And what do you think about, what I talked about earlier, about why the way they implemented the stats online wasn't gonna be good? Is it watered down? I think it's watered down. I think it's almost meaningless. There's no point in having stats online this way. So, what do you guys think? I look forward to your comments, and hopefully we get some news within the next month and a half. And at least, even if it's just throwing out there, hey, we started development on the new game. We're hoping to add this or that. Doesn't have to be that, in detail, but give us something. I don't play a lot of games, believe it or not. I know. All my time is really spent on NASCAR Heat 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, which I've been playing since it came out, and I still play Max Payne 3, which is a frustrating game. I talked about it before. I'm not going to get into it, but it's a love-hate relationship I have with that game. At its core, it's such a great game, and I think it's underrated, but it's such a mess, and Rockstar really let that game go down the toilet. The online multiplayer. If you guys want to know more about that, I talked about it in an earlier video. But basically, those are the only games I really play. So, some of you might find that surprising. I'm not as avid a gamer as you might think. I'm more focused on specific games, and when I play these games, I really play them. I really spend time on them. I don't have like a vast library of different games that I play. Even Project Cars 2, which I gave it a really good rating, and I really enjoyed it, I rarely play it because it's not really a sports game, and it's missing that aspect of it. It's good to jump on and just experience, and like I said, it's a car enthusiast game, but I hardly play it. I'm a NASCAR fan, and that's where I spend most of my time. And Grand Theft Auto 5, still enjoying that, but it is what it is. So, good talking to you guys. Hopefully by the next time I do another video, I'll have something, positive to talk about, something fun, and hopefully I'll be over this flu that I'm kind of getting out of it now. The past couple days, I was not feeling well at all, and I'm still kind of down, but I'm like just starting to get it out of the flu, so hopefully by then I'll feel better and we got something exciting to talk about. So I look forward to your comments later.